Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert at Scott Leroy Marketing. We'll get started with our Placester 101 class here, but before we get started, there's a couple of things to get out of the way. First thing I want to do is make sure you guys can actually hear me doing a sound check here. If you can hear me, if you'll look up at the very top of your screen, you should have these same 5 buttons that I do. If you'll click on this one just to the left of center that looks like a speech bubble icon, that's going to open up the chat window here. If you would let me know here in the chat window whether you can or can't hear me, I'd really appreciate that. Going to move that down here out of the way. While I'm waiting on those responses, I do want to let you know this class is being recorded. Should be available within just a couple of hours today at slmtraining.com. If I'm not able to get it up today, it should be there by the latest tomorrow. If you'd like to listen in via phone, okay, number 6 can hear me. Awesome. If you'd like to listen in on your phone instead of your computer speakers, there is that option to call in there. That number is on the screen right now. I also sent it there in the chat window. Also, before we get started, please make sure that you're using any browser besides Microsoft Internet Explorer. So if you're on Windows 7 or 8 or older and you're using Internet Explorer, Placester 100% totally completely will not load in the Internet Explorer. You'd have to upgrade to a more modern browser like Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox. If you're on a Mac, Safari typically works just fine, but there have been a couple of intermittent issues since last September. Now, if you're using Windows 10 and you're using that blue E icon, that is not Internet Explorer, that's Microsoft Edge, and that one works just fine. It's only Internet Explorer on Windows 8 and before. You have to upgrade to a more modern browser. That browser was retired about 4 years ago, so there's 5 years ago. Wow, 5 years ago. So you have to use a newer browser. And then lastly, this class is 100% follow along step by step, showing you right on the screen exactly what to do and where to click. You're going to do what I do exactly as I do it. If there's anything that's unclear, make sure to use that chat window to send me a question. And just in case we have a couple of new viewers, chat window is accessed by up here at the very top. You should have these same 5 buttons. Click on this one just to the left of center, and that opens up the chat window. That's where you're going to send me questions and where I'll be able to answer those. And I'll leave that up for just a little bit. Just give that a try. Okay, so let's minimize this. So the first step to accessing our KW website powered by Placester is to get logged into mykw.kw.com. You're not logging into Placester.com, nor are you logging directly into the homepage of your website. Both of those are incorrect. You have to access it. It's the only way through mykw.kw.com. So if you're not already logged in, go ahead and get logged into mykw.kw.com. From your MyKW homepage, up in the very top black menu, we'll hover over Technology, then we'll click on the third option down, which is KW Websites. Now on this page, you should have right in the center a big red button that says Go to my website. If you don't have this button, that's for one of 2 reasons. Either you don't have an @kw.com email address, which if we set you up, you definitely should, so that's usually not the issue. The other more common issue, about 99% of the time this is the issue, your MLS ID has not been added to your KW white pages, and the message that's on the screen in place of this button will tell you that. So you'll actually need to contact your MCA, your Market Center Administrator, and have them add your MLS ID to the KW white pages. Now, when they add that, there's a delay of 24 to 48 hours before this button shows up. So unfortunately, even if they were to add that right this second, you wouldn't have this button during the time of this class. You'd have to refer back to this recording or catch us next month, first Wednesday of the month. Where was I? But if you do have this button, let's click on that button that says Go to my website. Now, every once in a while, and I've never experienced this myself, I'm not sure what's wrong with other people's computers, but every once in a while the Placester system will present you with a login page asking for a username and password. There is no username and password for Placester. It's not your MyKW username and password. It's not your KW email address. There is no username and password. You should not have to log in. Instead, it should take you directly here to the dashboard. So if you're seeing that login page, click on that link that I just sent you for instructions for how to fix that. It's fairly simple, and it depends on the browser that you have. If you are seeing the dashboard here, this is correct, and you can ignore what I just sent you guys here. But if you're seeing that login page, that is not correct. You have to follow these instructions to fix that. Okay, so here on the dashboard, the very first thing we want to do is over on the left under Quick Actions, we'll click on this second link down that says Launch Site. And that's it. Your site is launched. There are no settings, no numbers to put in, no server, yada yada. You click Launch Site, site is launched. And where it takes us here is the list of the sites that are in our Placester account. So if you have already launched your site, the way to get to this page is up in the very top right. You should have this grid of 9 squares here. If you click on that, and then the second option down here is sites. And if you guys will excuse me, my dog has his squeaky toy. Okay. So this is where we are on the list of sites. There should be just one site listed on this page. Now there are a couple of exceptions to that, but for the vast majority of agents, there should just be one site on this page. One exception is if you're a member of the commercial division like Scott has here, or Farm and Ranch. You do get an additional Placester site for each of those divisions if you are a member of those. So you could potentially have the residential site, the one on the top here. You could have the commercial site, and then you could also have a Farm and Ranch site. You used to get an additional site for the luxury division, but because luxury homes are still homes, they're still residential, they changed that to add a new luxury theme to the existing residential site. And then every once in a while, Placester does glitch out and give you a second free site. You do only get one site normally through the KW subscription, but every once in a while, sometimes it does give you a second free site. It's up to you if you want to keep that. It could cause a lot of confusion trying to decide which site you're editing, which one you're marketing, what the address of each site is. So a lot of the time, you probably just want to get rid of that second site if you do get an additional one. And then the last way that there could be additional sites here is if someone accidentally clicked this plus sign here. You can create additional sites under this account, but you can only have one launched at a time under the KW subscription. If you want to have additional sites launched, you would need to pay $10 a month for that. So I've been in sites, in accounts before where there have been 7 additional sites that people have set up accidentally because they didn't understand that you don't have to create a new site every time you want to go make changes to your site. You can edit the existing site. So from this page listing our sites here, we're going to click on this link that says Edit Site. That's going to take us into the Site Settings page. That's where we are currently right here, this link. If I click on that, nothing happens because we're already on that page. If you want to learn more about pages, blog posts, testimonials, and areas, that's covered in Placester 201. That's our more advanced Placester class, and that's available recorded at slmtraining.com. Both 101 and 201 are linked there at slmtraining.com. Here in Placester 101, we're going to start at the top here at IDX integration and end down here at the bottom at custom domain, which is the one everybody cares about. Everybody wants to know, what's my website address? This shows you, and we'll get to that towards the end of the class. Placester 201 picks up here with site tracking. Okay, starting at the top, IDX integration stands for Internet Data Exchange, IDX. I know exchange starts with E, but that's just the way the abbreviation works. And that's the connection between your site and the MLS, so that listing data from the MLS can come over to your site automatically, and it's always up to date. Now, by default, your site is going to be connected to the KWLS under this system, the Keller Williams listing service, which is just KW listings, which is this one right here that's turned on. You're going to have to turn off the KWLS in order to turn on your actual MLS if it's listed here. So say you're a member of Georgia MLS, you would turn that on and click Save to apply that. Now, if your actual MLS isn't listed here, you're going to need to submit a request for getting that MLS connection, that IDX connection, set up here for the Placester site. Most times your market center leadership is going to have the information about how to do that. Typically it consists of sending off some paperwork to the site provider who then contacts the MLS and sets up the connection on their end. Sometimes it's an email that needs to be sent. Sometimes there are instructions that you need to follow while logged into the MLS, and that's going to be different for each of the 850 plus market centers across several hundred different MLS organizations across the country. So we can't give you specific instructions for how to do it for your individual market center. You're going to need to refer to your market center leadership about how to do that. Now, if you're still unclear on what IDX is and how it works, we actually have an explanation about the basics of IDX and why you're supposed to have 3 IDX connections as KW agent. And that's listed on that page that I just sent you guys here in the chat window. So you can click on that, read through that anytime. That explains why there are 3, what you need them for, and why they're not optional. You do have to have all 3. And it also directs you to your market center leadership for how to get that set up. If your MLS is listed here and it says pending instead of giving you the switch to turn it on and off, you're actually going to need to contact Placester directly via dataops@placester.com. So that's DATAOPS at placester.com, and ask them what's holding that up, because typically there's something additional that needs to happen in order to get that turned on. So if you do finally have your actual MLS listed here in this section, make sure to turn that on. And you do absolutely 100% have to turn off the KWLS in order for actual listings to show on your site. If you leave the KWLS on, it's going to cause issues on your site where no listings at all in any way, shape, form, or fashion are going to show on your site. You have to turn off the KWLS in order to turn on your actual MLS. And then one last thing to cover here, if you are a member of multiple MLSs, so say both Georgia and this cooperative Arkansas, I can turn both of those on because these are real actual MLSs that this is connected to. The KWLS cannot be turned on with anything else because it causes no listings to show. But if you're a member of 2 real MLSs, you can turn both of those on. And then make sure to click Save once you've made any changes here on this page. Now that green Save button is going to be really common. We're going to see that in everything we do here in the Placester site. Now, I do want to pause real quick. That's pronounced Placester, not Place Setter, not Placaster, not Playcaster. It's Placester, Placester, all one word, Placester. Okay, that's how you pronounce that, so that you sound educated when you ask for help about it. Okay, we just finished up with IDX integration. Under that, we have 2 options here, global filters and featured listings. Before I click on either one of those, I want to explain the difference. Global filters and feature listings look very similar when you're inside them, when you're changing these settings, but you want to be very careful because global filters controls what listings are possible to be found on your site when people are on the search page for properties. So if you go into global filters and you put in just the city that you live in, no listings outside of that city are possible to be found on your site. So say I went into global filters here and we're connected to that Georgia MLS. So I put Savannah in global filters. If there's a listing in Atlanta or in anywhere else outside of Savannah and I went to go search for Savannah, it would show me 0 results. So you have to be careful with global filters. And in fact, the best recommendation that we have is just ignore global filters. Leave it alone. Typically, it's just going to allow access to all listings in your MLS. And you don't want to limit yourself. You want to be able to show listings on your site across your entire MLS. You want to serve your entire service area. If you think you know what you're doing, you're welcome to go play around in there, but I'm not going to show you how because, like I said, we recommend just leaving this alone. And instead, what people usually actually mean to be doing is they want to control what listings show on their home page. And that's what you do in featured listings here. There's a section on your home page for featured listings, and depending on the theme that you've chosen, can show anywhere from 4 to 16 listings on the home page. The KW specific theme only shows 4. There's one theme that's not KW specific that can show up to 16 listings if there are enough to fit there. So this is, where was I saying? So this is usually what people are trying to do when they go into global filters, and they should leave global filters alone and instead work in featured listings where you're controlling the listings that show on your home page. So when I click on this, this brings up basically a search page. You're going to perform a search for the type or types of listings that you want to show on your home page. You've got by default beds, baths, price, and zip. And then you can also add any criteria that's available in the MLS. So you can add state that it's in, you can add a specific address, which would show just one listing, so you don't want to do that actually. You could do subdivision, you could show listings from just one particular subdivision on your home page. If you did agent ID or name or email, that would show just your listings or just your office's listings, and then all these different things from the MLS. So you can add these additional things here to narrow it down for the home page. And you do want to get fairly narrow. The listings that you want to be specialized in, the ones that you want to work on most often, the area you want to work in most often, that's what you should show in the featured listings section. And like I said, that's not what you're supposed to do in the global filters. You want to leave that as wide open as possible. So here in filter, oh, by the way, I do want to cover up at the top here, we have the option between filtered and specific listings. If you went over to specific listings, I'm not even going to show you how to do that because it's typically not what you want to do. But if you went to specific listings, you could hand choose, I want to show this listing, this listing, this listing, and this listing on my home page. The problem with that is when listing A goes off the market, you're left with just 3 listings on the home page, and then 2 more go off the market, you got 1 more on the home page, and then that one goes off the market, you got no listings on your home page. You would need to manually each and every day come in here and choose the listings to show on the home page if anything had gone off the market. So instead, it's better to use filtered listings and have it automatically add listings to the home page as they go off the market that meet the criteria that you set here. So what we could do here is, let's call it minimum baths of 3, minimum beds of 4. We're going to do a minimum price of $250K and a max price of, we'll call it $1 million. Is that 1 more 0? There we go. And then we're going to add a search criteria of, we'll do a city, and I'm going to use Savannah, that option that I said earlier. Oops, can't spell Savannah. So I'm going to select that there. Underneath that we have, and you can add additional criteria, excuse me, if you wanted to. You could have, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things that you're filtering by in this section to narrow that down a lot more. And that's up to you how deep you want to get into that. Under add search criteria, we have the option for default sort. By default, what it's going to show on the home page is the highest price listings that meet these criteria first. So this is going to show closer to the 1 million range than the 250,000 range. You could also flip that around and show lowest price first, total number of images first, days on site newest, so that's the freshest listings, the most recently listed, and then the days on site oldest is going to be the most stale listings, beds and baths most, and then year built newest and oldest. So this one would be, say this is a historic neighborhood that you filter this down to, and you want to show the oldest built houses there, the ones with the most quote-unquote character. So you could do year built oldest to sort that. And you can change this anytime you want. It's instantaneous. There's no waiting period. You can change this as often as you want. There's no maximum to the number of times you can change this. And then the last option here, default results per page, is how many listings are going to show on what's called a featured listings page type. That's covered in Placester 201 if you want to learn more about that. This is not controlling how many listings show on the home page. It controls how many listings show on a separate featured listings page. So it shows me that there are 14 listings that meet these criteria in Savannah, 3 beds, 4 baths between 250K and $1 million. So we'll go down here and we'll save that. And then now when I go to up here at the top right, view live site, it's going to show me listings that meet those criteria with the oldest built first here on the home page here under featured properties. So we've got this Victory Drive, that's a really old one, close to $1 million. Got this 6th Street, East 6th Street, Quill Street, Cotton Zing, I think that's supposed to be King. And you can, change this out anytime that you want. So you can change it to the freshest listings, things like that. Under that in the listings section is open house info. We can't cover that because that's not part of what KW pays for in your subscription. Under site design, we're going to go into theme selection. Here in theme selection are your customization options, and be advised that you are very limited in how you can customize your site. Basically, you choose a theme, that's what your site's going to look like. There is no drag and drop, there's no coding, there's no changing sizes, no changing fonts. This is the only color change you can make. So basically, you're changing your theme, and what you see is what you get. That's your only option. You can't say move this line down here. You can't move your picture up here. You can't move quick search over to here. None of that is possible to do. You just change your theme, and that's what you get. Period. End of story. I get a lot of questions about this from people on the phone, and unfortunately, it's limited. That's just the way that the site is. So what you see is what you get. Period. End of story. Okay, so by default, what's selected is the Madison theme. This is the KW specific theme, one of two KW specific themes. The other one is the Madison Metro, which I have to go past luxury to get to because I do have that theme here in Scott's account. But most people aren't going to have that. Instead, they're going to have the Madison and the Madison Metro. Now, recently, what I've been seeing is that Placester has limited KW agents to just those two themes. So if you have additional themes, you're welcome to use those. Unfortunately, we can't control what Placester does, and you may just be limited to those two themes. Where was I? So we're going to leave the Madison selected, but you can click through and choose a different theme here. Now, one thing that you can customize is totally customizable is, say we like this Fremont theme. We like the little ribbon here with our social media icons. We got that big star up there that says sign up now, but I don't like this picture of this luxury house exterior. No big deal. Choose the theme and you actually can change out this picture here. So you're choosing your theme based on the arrangement and the look and feel, not based on whatever image is behind or above the search bar here. You control that image that's behind or above the search bar. So we've got suburbia cookie cutters here. You could change this out. We've got this nicely decorated interior. You can change that. We've got this leaf-strewn street in the fall. You can change that, okay? So don't choose your theme based on that picture. Choose your theme based on how the theme looks overall. Under that, most themes give you an option to change the color. This is changing different things based on the theme that you've chosen. Here on the Madison theme, this is basically changing the color of that header section and some of the accents here. So I'm going to leave the orange here, and you'll see that that's changed up here and on the search bar and in the featured properties link here. Underneath that, we have the option of a solid color header or a white header with accents of whatever color you've selected here. And you'll notice this is not orange and these accents are not orange. This does not change based on the color that you choose here. You just kind of have to imagine it or go preview it, and if you don't like it, change it to the other one. So I'm going to leave it as the solid color header here with the white accents. And then underneath that, this one is specific to the Madison and the Madison Metro themes. You're changing what it says here over the search bar. By default, if you leave this box blank, it's going to say the best place to find your home. If you don't want to show anything at all in that box, you could try putting in just a space above that search bar, you could just try putting in a space and then that would leave it blank, I think. Or you can type in your own up to 60 characters to do there. Typically, when we set sites up for agents, we're going to put in your home search starts here. So once you've made whatever changes you want to make to your theme, you would make sure to scroll down to the bottom and click Save. And then if you come over to the site, eventually, well, we'll just give it a refresh. Oops, I didn't want that. Give it a refresh here. Maybe eventually. There we go. We got that new header section that's orange. We got the search bar there. So we see our changes that we made in the theme selection section. Now, once you save that, it's going to take you back to the selected design page, the theme selection. You're actually going to have to dismiss that, and it's going to take us all the way back out to the dashboard. This has been happening for months, and I don't know why Placester hasn't fixed it. We're just going to have to go on the left here and click on Edit Site to get back into the site settings page. Scrolling down a little more, this is the slideshow section. This is where you're controlling these pictures that show on the home page behind or above the search bar, depending on the theme that you've chosen. So we're going to switch this out. By default, what's selected is this Highland theme. This is a fairly nice theme, and in most cases, you'd probably be happy leaving this here. Or you can select one of these other slideshows that they provide through Placester. You can select any of these. They all have 5 images in them. That's the maximum number of images that you can have in a slideshow, no more than 5. You can have as few as 1 image though, just where it's a static image that just stays in place. And if you want to do that, you're welcome to. But all of these slideshow options do have 5 in them, and you just click Select and then scroll to the bottom and click Save. However, you do have the option for creating your own custom slideshow, and that's by clicking this plus sign here next to where it says slideshows. So I'll click on that, and we're going to create a custom slideshow here. So we'll name this Class 6/5/2019. So you can upload up to 5 images here, and you do have to do them all individually, so I'm going to do these pretty quickly. Okay, so I've got my 5 images uploaded here. You'll notice they're all different dimensions, and I did that to illustrate a couple of things. Here in the slideshow, your images really need to be about 4 or 5 times as wide as they are tall. You want really, really wide screen on these slideshow images because that's how they're going to show on the home page. If they're not widescreen, if they're too tall, it's actually going to cut off the top and bottom so that it will fit there in that widescreen spot. So let's see, this image down here, this lighthouse, it's actually going to cut it off right about here. Oops, down to right about here. You're barely going to see any of this image because it's trying to fit it in that widescreen spot, so it has to cut off the top and bottom. So your images need to be roughly 4 or 5 times as wide as they are tall. Now, if you want specific numbers, if you were that kind of particular person, there is a guide on Placester's site for how to resize your images to fit in the slideshow there. Okay, where was I? So I've got these 5 images here. Under each image, you have the option to add a caption and or a link. A caption is going to show here in the bottom left. It's always going to be white. It's always going to be in this spot. It's always going to be this size. It's always going to be this font. The only thing you're changing about this is what it says. So it's up to you whether you want to add a caption or not. And then you can also, that's not how you spell caption. You can also add a link to each image. So what I did on my site, and I'm going to show you guys that as an example. And my site does just exist as an example. It doesn't have any IDX. So here on my site, this first image here of the Pensacola beach here, if I were to click on this, it's going to open up a new tab and take me to the tourism website for Pensacola. That's where I'm from originally with KW, and I miss it and I wish I could go back. Say I go to the second image here, that's the downtown area. If I click on this, it's going to go to downtownpensacola.com, which is a great area to be if you're ever in Pensacola. And then I think on the last image, I don't have a link. Yeah, so I don't. If I click on this image, nothing's going to happen. So you can apply a different link to each image in your slideshow if you feel like it. So we're going to apply a link here to go to the Scott Leroy marketing site. And then we're just going to leave the rest of these alone. Just scroll down and click Save down here at the bottom. So now if I refresh Scott's site, it's going to show those new images there in the slideshow. There we go. We got this nice image of a hot air balloon over a cornfield. It did cut off the top and bottom just a little bit, but I can still definitely tell what's going on here, tell what it was intended to be, and it looks very nice. It's a widescreen image and it fits nicely on the site here. However, if I go to this image here, this second one with the boots, if you remember, back here in the slideshow section, there's, oops, got to open up this slideshow. There's a lot more to this picture. There are some nice boats and a dock here that you're supposed to be able to see in this image, but because it's too tall, it is wider than it is tall, but because it's not wide enough versus how tall it is, it's cutting off the top and bottom again to fit in that widescreen spot. If I go to this third image here, this is another very wide screen one, and it looks very nice, and it's about 4 or 5 times as wide as it is tall. That's the way that it's supposed to be. And then you remember that lighthouse picture here, this is what it looks like with the top and bottom cut off. So if you get nothing else from this section, 4 to 5 times as wide as it is tall for these slideshow images. Now if I go back to this first image and down here is my caption that I set there, and if I click on this image, it's going to go to the Scott Leroy marketing site that I applied in that slideshow section. Bada boom, bada bing. Okay. Exiting the section. I didn't make any changes. I don't need to save it. Next, we're going to drop down here to certifications. This is the easiest part of the class. Click the certifications that you have. Now, if you're in the United States, you're required legally to show equal housing opportunity, and then you're probably also required to show National Association of Realtors. Most agents are a member of an Association of Realtors or a Board of Realtors. If you have the Realtor title, you're required to show this on your site. That leaves space for up to 4 more certifications to select on your site. Once you've selected the certifications you want, click Save either at the top or the bottom, and that's going to apply that to your site down at the bottom. Scroll down here, there we go. We've got our certifications that we selected. Coming back to our Placester interface here, Social networks is, depending on the theme that you've chosen, the social network links are going to go in different places. We saw on that Fremont theme, there was that little ribbon dropping down from the search bar, or excuse me, from the menu that had the social links there. That looks pretty nice. Here in the Madison theme, they go up here at the very top left. Different themes put them in different places. So if you don't like them here, you'd have to choose a different theme to move them somewhere else. And if you click on those, it's going to go to those different social media profiles. Now, when you're putting in those social media links, you'll notice there is no https://www.facebook.com/. All of that is gone because it's already in place here. This is telling you, if it's not obvious enough, this is telling you that the site is automatically for you going to put in facebook.com/. It only wants the part after the first slash. Same for Twitter. It only wants the part after the first slash. It is the exact same for LinkedIn. Even though there's another slash after the first one, it still wants everything after the first slash. Same for YouTube. There's another slash after the first one, but that doesn't matter because everything after the first slash goes in this box here. After the first slash. That's the number one thing you need to understand in this section. A lot of people don't get that and they paste in the entire thing, or they end it right here and don't put in after the second slash. So after the first slash. Now, if you'd like help finding these, what are they? Public social media links to put on your website, we do have a guide exactly for that. It guides you through click by click in 7 or 8 different social media sites that shows you how to find the link that goes in these boxes here. Once you've got those applied there, make sure to click Save to add that to your site. Coming down to the search form section here, this is choosing what the search form looks like on your site. Now, if you're using the Madison or the Madison Metro theme, you're only going to have one option here, and that's the Omnibox. And that's a good option. It's very similar to the search box on the kw.com homepage, same as on Zillow, same as on Realtor.com. You get the same search box they do, basically, where you can just type in, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, pool, what's that called, fence, and then certain zip code and waterfront and whatnot. You type all that in at the same time in the search bar, and it's going to show you listings using those criteria. It's automatically going to do what's called parsing those into drop downs, essentially. Or into sliders or whatever it is on the site, versus selecting each of those individually in a drop-down. Now, that is an option. We'll get to that in just a minute. But if you're using the Madison or the Madison Metro theme, this is your only option. You just click Next, you click Save, boom, you're done. Now, if you wanted to use a different search box, you wanted to have those drop-downs that are more primitive, you'd actually need to come back to theme selection and choose a different theme, like this Plymouth one of the ones that's not KW specific. So we'll save that, and then it's going to refresh that exact same thing. And now I have to exit this, back out to the dashboard, click Edit Site, and we'll come back here to search form, and now I have some more options. I can still use the Omnibox if I want to. Omnibox is available on all of the themes, or you can select one of the drop-down based options, and you're just choosing which drop-down is first, price, city, zip, or neighborhood. Price is most popular, we'll select that, click Next. Now you have the option of, do I want to add any more drop-downs when someone gets off the home page over to the actual listing search page? You can tell it no, just keep the same 4, add up to 4 more, or add all of the drop-downs that are possible to have. So we'll select that one, click Save. Now if I come back to Scott's site and refresh it, now we've got the Plymouth theme here, we've got the new search box here with the drop-downs here, and I'm going to search for, 150,000. No, not 151, 150,000. There we go. And then search that. So now when I get over to the actual search page with the results, it's going to show me those additional drop-downs up here at the top because I selected that advanced one when I was selecting the search box. There we go, finally. So here are my additional drop-downs. And if I had selected that basic, it would just still have these 4 here. Now, you can change this anytime you want. You can change the theme, change the search box. It's pretty immediate. Now, a funny thing that happens is, say you were using one of these drop-down based search boxes and you decided, no, I want to go back to the Madison or the Madison Metro theme. So you come over and you select that and you save it. And you come back to the home page of your site. it's going to look really funny. What it's trying to do is fit a drop-down based search box in the space that the Omnibox is supposed to be. And it's actually not even going to work. You can click on this, you can try typing, you can try clicking search, none of it's going to work. So what you'll have to do is come back to, and again, we're going to have to go back to the dashboard, edit site, come back to the search form section and just resave the Omnibox, and that would apply that to the site. There we go, we got our Omnibox back. Okay, under search form, we've got menu here. This is where you're customizing this top navigation here underneath the KW logo. And it's going to look a little different depending on the theme that you've chosen. But this is your menu, or tabs, quote unquote, as people call them. I guess that's fairly accurate, but the real name is this is your menu. And you can add as many menu items as you want. There's no limit to that. So when you're editing your menu here, it's going to look roughly like this by default. You can actually click and drag things around to reorder them. I can move the blog and the areas up here. I can move home way down to the end if I felt like it. I have to move contact up. There we go. You can drag and drop things around to rearrange them. I'm going to put my home back up here and then listing search right under that. What do we got? Put about up there, and then contact, and then we'll leave the rest of that in whatever order it is. Now, some of the newer sites do have additional options for what's my home worth and first-time homebuyers resources. I have yet to determine whether those actually work. From what I understand, the first-time homebuyers resources doesn't, and then it's about 50-50 whether the what's my home worth page works. So you try those out. If they don't work, you can remove those from the menu. Now, you can also add additional menu items here. So under this, we've got a drop down here where you can select the different pages that are on your site. This is going to show you pre-existing pages that are already on your site. When you're adding new pages, you have the option to add it to the menu automatically when you save the page, and that's covered in Placester 201. This is just showing pages that are already on your site. We do want to add one here, this Your Favorite Listings, that's not in the menu by default. So we'll select that and click Add. Now we've got a new menu item. And then what you can do here is another thing that you can do to rearrange your menu is you can drag things on top of each other, and that'll create what's called a nested menu item. It's going to create a drop down. You'll notice now that Your Favorite Listings is indented under listing search. That's not a glitch, that's intentional, because now if I were to save this and go back to Scott's site and refresh it, now when I hover over listing search, it drops down with that Your Favorite Listings link. Now Your Favorite Listings is a page that's going to show a list of properties that people have saved on your site. So this is Your Favorite Listings as in the site visitor, not your as in the agent. So there is a page where you can show Your Favorite Listings. It's called a featured listings page, which would take the criteria that you set in featured listings and show a whole page of those listings, but that's covered in Placester 201. We also want to add another menu item called a custom URL. So we'll select that in this drop down and click Add. And we've got a label here. This is just the text that's going to show in the menu that people can click on. So we're going to call this, what's it called? Free Home Search App. And we're going to add a link to your personalized KW app here. And that's done by pasting in your KW app link here in the URL box. That looks like the format of that is http://app.kw.com/ and then your KW app code. And that's individual to each and every single agent. Your app code is not going to be the same as anybody else's because it's branded specifically for you. So to go get your app link that goes in here to brand it specifically for you, it's really easy to do. We're going to leave this Placester tab open and switch back over to our My KW tab and go back to the home page. And then here on the home page in the eEdge control panel in the top center, we've got the My Marketing section. If you'll click this plus sign next to My Marketing, we're going to click the very last option here, which is Manage eAgency Website. Now don't get hung up on that website word. This site was retired about 4 years ago or 3 years ago and no longer actually functions properly. So you don't want to spend any time actually working on this site. The only reason this still exists is for this one reason that we're doing right now. The KW app is still administered through the eAgency administration. Nothing else matters, or almost nothing else matters in this eAgency section. So when you click on that e-agency link, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you what it looks like because I don't have access to it here in Scott's account. But what you should see is over on the left, you're going to have section 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.0. If you'll click on section 4, that's going to expand it down. Then you'll click on section 4.5, mobile property search. On that page on the right, if it's not already selected, you're going to want to select your market center name in the drop down at the top. And then under that, immediately under that, is your app link, the one that says http://app.kw.com/ and then your code. So you're going to copy that entire app link, the whole http://app.kw.com, blah, 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 the entire thing, highlight that and copy it. And we're going to come back to our Placester interface, and you're going to paste that here into the URL box. So it's going to look something like this. Something like that. There's 5 there. Now this isn't a real app code. Yours is absolutely 100% totally completely going to look different than this. Your code is not going to be KW12345. It's going to be KW something 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 with letters and numbers. Again, that's specific to you. Yours is not going to match anyone else's. Yours is not going to match my screen here. But you want that entire link in there, the whole HTTP : everything. Underneath that, we have the option for a tooltip, and I'll just show you what that looks like. It's just a little text box that pops up when someone hovers over this menu item in the menu. Now, once we've got that information in there, we are not going to click on Add, because that would be adding an additional menu item that serves no purpose, and you'd have to go delete that. Instead, we're going to click Save down here at the bottom to apply that to the site. And then we'll come over and refresh the site to see what that looks like. So now we've got our new menu item here, free home search app. If I click on that, it's going to take me to the app download page for you or whoever. Now it's going to tell me this has an error because this is not a real app code, which is fine. Yours shouldn't show you that. It should show your picture, your name, your service area, and that's going to download your app when people click on it on their phone. Okay. Next section here where we're going to spend a good bit of time is our site info section. We just finished with the menu. Now we're down here in site info. This is choosing where, what information shows on your site as far as contacting you and as far as the title of your site. So site title, this first box here, is going to be up here near the top left of your site, pretty big. And then under that is going to be the site title, a little bit smaller, over here in the top left as well. So you're controlling what it says there, and you're also controlling whether or not it actually shows the title and the subtitle if you want to. So typically when we create a site for an agent, we're going to put in their name in this box, or if you're a member of a team, you can put your team name here very nicely. We're going to do Scott Leroy Marketing. We'll just put that in there. That's the team name. Under that for this oh, by the way, the site title is not optional. There has to be something in this box. You can choose not to display it by unchecking this box here, which is unchecked by default, and that wouldn't show on your site. But there does have to be something in this box. It is required. The tagline, the subtitle, is not required. You could leave this blank if you felt like it. But typically when we set things up for agents, we're going to put in your local real estate resource or something similar to that. Under that, for a logo here, by default, it's going to be the plain KW logo. You can upload your own logo file here, whether it's your Market Center's logo or your particular logo for your team or your business. You're welcome to do that. Just double check with your Market Center whether it's required to have your Market Center's logo on there. Some states and some MLSs and some vendors are require for your Market Center's logo to be shown on your site instead of your logo. And unfortunately, that is an either or. You can't have this logo and your and your personal logo on the site at the same time unless you were to somehow combine them into one image, which you're welcome to do if you can figure it out. We don't offer any kind of service with that. So typically for most people it's either KW logo or your logo. It's not both. Now I did have a question about a year ago from an assistant who thought that because there was a logo here and you still had the upload file button, that meant you could upload a second logo, 2 logos. No. You upload a file, it's going to replace whatever logo is here. And we're going to ignore select a KW logo because there are 59 logos in here. There are 850 market centers. Your logo is more than likely not going to be in here because most of those are plain KW logos. So instead, it's better to upload your own market center's logo or your particular business logo. Now, if you need help finding your Market Center's logo, guess what? We have a class for that. Leads you through click by click exactly how to download your particular Market Center's logo. So you can follow those instructions there and upload that to this spot here. Under that, we have a couple of checkboxes here. Unchecked by default is display name and tagline. So by default, these two are not going to show on your site. You have to check this box to show them on there. By default, the logo, whatever you upload here, is going to display on the site, but you have the option of not displaying that as well. Again, check with your Market Center leadership for whether it's required to show the logo on there. Under that, we've got a spot for a favicon. A favicon shows up here in the browser tab next to the left of the SEO title, the site title. And it's hard to tell here in the incognito window, but there's a little stylized geometric blue P here for Placester. It's a little more obvious over here on MyKW. You've got this red box with white KW in there. That is a favicon. That's the only place you're ever going to see that. Unless it's in the bookmarks bar here, you're going to see a favicon there. But it's only ever going to be this size, 16 pixels by 16 pixels. Not 1600, not 160, 16 by 16. Teeny, teeny, tiny. So this is not the place to upload your picture or your team's picture, because if someone sees it this size, they might be able to tell, hey, that's a human. They can't tell who you are, what you look like. So instead, maybe upload your logo. Use this same KW logo here. We actually have that available for you guys. You can download that, upload that in this spot if you want. Or if your logo, your personal logo, is simple, maybe a simple shape or a letter or two, probably a good idea to use that there. If it's more complicated, like a full name or full word or multiple words, probably not good to use in the favicon because nobody will be able to read it. I'm going to go ahead and upload the KW logo here. There it is right there. So that, there we go, it's teeny tiny, and that's the size that it's going to show on the site. No matter how big you upload a picture here, it could be all the way over to here, it's going to shrink it down to 16 by 16. Under that, contact details, pretty self-explanatory. This is your name or your team's name or whatever. Under that is titles or designations. So realtor is going to be a good one to put in there, or CRS, or ABR, or whatever designations you've earned. You can put them in there if you want to. If you're in New York, you are required legally by the Department of Real Estate to put in licensed real estate sales person. Or if you're a broker, licensed associate broker. Associate real estate broker. So licensed real estate salesperson or licensed associate real estate broker. One of those two has to be in there if you're in New York. If you're in any other state, there are no requirements for what needs to go in here. For your email, I don't know why Ariel's in here. You can put in your contact email. That's going to show in an email me link on the homepage. We'll talk more about that later. Phone number, self-explanatory. Now, if you're in New York, New York has a lot of compliance requirements for your site. If you're in New York, you have to put a C or spell out cell in front of this phone number, or whatever. If it's an office or a home or whatever, you have to tell people on your site what type of number this is. So we're going to pretend I'm in New York. I'm putting cell there. Under that, this is another one that's required in New York, but also in California. So if you're not in New York or California, you don't have to check this box. But if you are in one of those two states, check this box. And we're going to right-click on this My Profile and open this in a new tab. And here you're going to have to add your DRE number, your Department of Real Estate number, your license number that was issued to you from California or New York. So we're going to do that by right here next to My Profile. We'll click Edit, and we'll scroll down to the bottom, and your DRE number here goes in License Display. What this page doesn't tell you is your phone number also has to go in this box. Doesn't matter what else is up here in these boxes. Ignore it, leave them blank, because nobody is seeing this information except for this one box here. You can leave everything blank except for the phone and the DRE number. So then, this is new. NRDS ID also has to go in this box. You can look it up on this page by last name and state that you're licensed in. So, last name and license number, or last name and email. Once you've got both the DRE number and the NRDS number and the phone number here, save that. It's going to tell me that's invalid, whatever. and then that will show on your site if you have this box checked. Again, just California and New York have to have that. Under that is going to be your picture. Upload a file there. Got Scott's nice picture right here. Under that, in office details, again in New York, nowhere else, but just in New York, you have to put in correct, accurate office information in all these fields. So your market center's full DBA name, doing business as name, that's registered with the DRE, you do have to put that full name in here. So like Keller Williams Realty Southern Tier and Finger Lakes. That's an office in New York. Put in your market center's website, required in New York. And it does have to include the whole http://. You have to put in your market center's number, market center's email address, which I don't know why Ariel's stuff is in here again. Or, excuse me. Market center's physical address. And then if you're in New York, you have to check both of these two boxes. If you're in any of the other 49 states, you don't have to check these boxes. But if you're in New York, you do have to check these boxes. And then lastly, down here in footer links, if you're in Texas, this is where you're going to put in your links for your consumer protection notice and your information about brokerage services. Now, I'm not going to cover how to do that here because it's a little bit more involved than just typing things in, but we do have instructions for how to do that, which I just sent to you guys. So we'll leave that alone here. And we're also, because we're running out of time, going to have to skip this meta title and meta description. If you want to learn more about those and how to improve the search engine ranking of your site, we do have a guide specifically for that as well. Just sent you guys that link there for our site where you can do our search engine optimization challenge that helps you improve your site to do better on search engine rankings. So we'll click save down here at the bottom. And now if we come over to, we'll close this, come over to Scott's site and refresh this, we're going to see all those changes that we just made in that site info section. So now we got that logo that's in place there, got our site title, again big, and then subtitle real kind of small underneath that. Over here on the right, this is all that New York information. So here's your name, here's that title, here's that license number. This email me link is actually, I wanted to send you guys a video about that. Let me go look that up really quickly. So that email me link is going to compose a new message to your email, and it's going to use whatever the default program is on whatever computer it's clicked on. So if it's clicked on a phone, it's going to open up the email app. If it's clicked on somebody's computer, it may open Outlook, it may open Gmail. If they're on a Mac, it may open Mac Mail. It's going to behave differently for every single individual person's computer. On your computer, a lot of the time, it may not do anything at all. It's not broken. It's just the way that it works. On your computer, you haven't set a default mail program, so nothing happens. On somebody else's computer, they may have set Outlook as their default mail program, so it's going to open Outlook. So if you want more explanation about that, I did just send you guys that video there. Got that cell number there. Now, if you're outside of New York, what'll happen is if somebody taps on this on their phone, it'll start a call to you. If you're in New York, unfortunately, you're kind of out of luck because you do have to have that cell designation there. And if someone were to tap on this, it's going to try to dial CELL and then 321, you know, whatever your number is, and that's not unfortunately going to go through. Also in New York, we've got the name of your market center here, and if I click on this, that would go to the market center's website that we put in, market center's physical address, and the market center contact information down here at the bottom. Where was I? Okay, so that was what was changed in the site info section. So when we save that, it does the same thing as the theme selection part, where it reloads the same thing, where we have to click out of here, takes us to the dashboard, so we have to click on Edit Site on the left again. Language we're going to skip because there are only 3 options and it's stupid. Coming down here under More, we have to skip Auto Publish because that's not provided by KW in your Placester subscription. Lead capture is very, very, very important. This is probably the single most important thing about this site that I'm going to show you guys today. Lead capture is how your site collects contact information from people that are on your site and how it delivers it to you. So for the collecting part, there's 2 options by default. You've got passively capture leads, which means people don't have to fill out a contact form unless they want to. And you've got aggressively capture leads, which means people are forced to fill out a contact form if they want to view individual property details. They can search for properties and they can see the list and the summary, but if they clicked on an individual one to go look at more information, it would pop up a contact form and they have to fill that out before they can view more information about that listing. Neither of these is really perfect. You can miss out on leads either way. So there's actually, and this is the only time that I would ask you to consider paying for an upgrade from Placester or from anywhere, is Placester has an upgrade package that includes, among other things, the option to customize when that lead capture form shows up. So you could tell it, pop up the lead capture form after they view on 3, 4, 5 listings, and then on the 6th one, it would pop up and say to continue viewing listings, fill out this contact form. That way they're already invested. If I were an agent, I would very seriously consider adding that expense, but definitely consider that in the context of your own business. I'm not pushing you, telling you, ordering you to do that. Just consider it. Underneath that, down here at the bottom, we have email addresses, which, Ariel, I don't know why you've been putting your email in all over here. Where was I? So this is emails that are going to be notified every time a lead comes into your site. So you, of course, want to put in your regular day-to-day email here, so that you'll be notified immediately anytime somebody fills out a contact form on your site. This is separate from that email field in the site info section that only works on that email me link on the homepage. This is for any form on the site. You'll be notified via email. And then you can add additional emails in here as well. You just have to put a comma first. It can't be anything but a comma. No colon, no semicolon. You can't hit enter. Has to be, can't be a dot, can't be a period. Has to be a comma and nothing else. And then from there, you can start typing your next address. You could put in your lead coordinator's address. You could put in your buyer's agent address. You could put in your partner's address so that everybody that needs to can be notified when a lead comes into the site. Another email that you're definitely going to want to put in here is your eEdge lead forwarding email, so that leads from your Placester site will automatically go into your eEdge database as a contact. And then eventually, once it starts working, the eEdge contacts will automatically be fed over into Command. And I feel like there's probably some kind of integration with Command and Placester that's coming eventually. But right now, the only option is to put leads into eEdge, and then once KW fixes it, eEdge leads will go over into Command. But for right now, we'll just put them into eEdge. Very easy to do. Let's go do that. So back on our MyKW homepage in the eEdge control panel, in this same section, My Marketing, we're going to click that plus sign, and we're going to click Manage eEdge Website. And that's the older site. We're not going to cover that right now, but that is still available. Once we're in the eEdge system, we're in the website section by default. Instead, over here on the left, we're going to click on My Account. And then here on the My Account, we want to copy the eEdge email. We want the one that ends in @kwrealty.com. We don't want the external email, and we don't want the website address that has a dot. We want the one with the @ so such and such @kwrealty.com. So you'll highlight that, copy it, come over back to Placester, and paste that here into this email addresses box here. That way, A, you'll be notified immediately when a lead comes into your site, and then B, these leads will automatically be added as contacts into your eEdge database. And we want to make sure to save that as soon as we're done with that to apply that to the site. Now, the last thing we're going to cover, we're running out of time here, is the custom domain section. This shows you the address of your site, which is typically supposed to be the first part of your KW email, .kw.com. Basically, you take out the @ symbol, put in a dot, that's your KW website versus the KW email. Now, if you're confused about the difference between an email address and a website address, you're going to need different classes for that. But here, by default, it's going to be whatever it is, .kw.com. If you're in Canada, it's going to be .kellerwilliamsrealty.ca instead of kw.com. Now, this is great and all, and you can put this on your marketing materials, or if you click Edit over here on the right, you have the option to change this first part before the first dot. So we could put in something like Scott Leroy, or you could put in a different name or your team's name or something like that. And then you check availability, and it looks like scottleroy.kw.com. Actually, it's used by Scott's commercial site. It'll tell you whether someone else already has that. And if they do already have it, it'll suggest something different here. And you can select that. And then when you click save, that would be your new site address. Now, one thing to warn you about is if you do change this address, the old address will not forward to the new address. It'll actually forward to just kw.com. So if you've printed this address on marketing materials and then you change that address, those marketing materials are basically worthless because that address is no longer going to work. Now you also have the option to connect a custom domain here to your KW website powered by Placester, and that's using a process called domain mapping using DNS records. And there are step-by-step instructions from Placester for how to do that. We also have step-by-step instructions for how to do that, but probably the easiest thing to do is just to have us do it for you. And we do have a service for that, and I just sent you guys the link to that there. That's going to do it for our Placester 101 class for today. Everybody have a great day.